Hi, my name is Kathleen Fordyce, and I have spent 3 full days observing at a middle school in preparation for my practicum placement. Those 3 days have been very different. On the first day, we had kind of what you would consider, I guess, a normal day for a middle school. Not that there is such thing, but we was with our regular teacher and the classes she has every day. And then on our second day of observation, a week later, we were with the same teacher, but we were there after 2.5 days immediately following a substitute teacher. And then on our third time there, we were actually there with a substitute teacher. So they were all very different experiences and taught me a lot about being a teacher. On the first day, I was surprised to see that there was still a lot of worksheets and things like that we talk a lot about in our classes, and we talk a lot about trying not to use them. Our teacher, our mentor teacher, though, she is extremely engaging with the students, and even when they're doing worksheets, they're eager to comment and eager to be a part of it. The teacher wasn't only a teacher. I found that she was an instructor, she was a babysitter, she was a tutor. She was kind of a tour guide. She had to lead them in the right direction because some of the students wouldn't find their way there on their own. She was extremely lighthearted, and the students did really seem to like her. I can see myself being a lot like her as a teacher, honestly. She was quite witty with the students and a little bit smart with them because they're at that age where they like that and they really could enjoy it, you could tell. Some of the things I noticed was she did do grammar. She started every LA class with editing and revising worksheets. The students would do them on their own. They would find the mistakes, and then as a class, they would go through them. And even though it seemed a little bit, it wasn't super engaging, but it was beneficial. The students every single day got to practice this skill because they're going to use it for a long time. It only took up about maybe 5 to 10, maximum 10 minutes of her class time. And it was quite a beneficial thing. And the students were catching all of the mistakes. In their social class, they did have group work every time we were there. The first one they were learning about, they had kind of, this was pre-learning about democracy, and they had them in groups and trying to kind of figure out, it was a kind of like a survivor sheet with a list of different things that they would have with them if they were stranded on an island, and they had to rank them in order of most important to least important and why. And we kind of just walked around and watched, and we were told not to intervene and just to kind of let them work through it. And then the next time we were there, she was talking about, okay, in your groups, what did you do, and comparing it to different forms of government, which was really cool. She had the students relate to what they had been doing, and watching the students, they found their own systems. I was with a group in the hallway, and it took them forever to start to engage and figure out how they were going to do it. And then they started putting their hands in and they started voting. And there was a girl who has special needs, and it took her a long time, and it got a little vocal, but they all came to agreements and started to figure things out as a team, and it was pretty cool. I went through the program of studies after, actually, and tried to figure out which of the objectives they were doing, and it was pretty obvious that she was accomplishing quite a few while we were there. There was constant enforcement of writing legible, because if they aren't, then she can't mark it. They worked on jot notes. They were given paragraphs, and they learned how to do summaries. They did one as a group, and then when they were done that one, they had to keep it as an example. She told them, if you make a mistake, I'm going to make you start again. This is your guide, and it has to be perfect. So you need to do it perfect this time so you have it to look back on. And I liked that. The students were accountable for knowing how they had to do it. The only thing they had to look back on was their own work. Also, in the democracy, when they were in social studies, they did Venn diagrams comparing similarities and differences, and that was an exact objective out of the program of studies. She was a very engaging teacher. As I said, I was surprised because even though there was group work, I'm still seeing a ton of worksheets. but she does seem to have these students engaged. I am in grade 6, and she told us, you do have some freedom when you are teaching, but keep in mind we do have our PATs this year, so we do need to keep on track. And it is quite evident that even though they do want to engage the students and try different things, that in the back of their mind, they're constantly thinking about that and how to get it achieved. As I said, her students were extremely interested. She seemed like one of those teachers that was a favorite by the students. They all stop and talk to her in the hallways, and she's formed those relationships. And you can see that since she's done that, she's has very effective classroom roles. They want to behave for her because they like her. Another thing I learned when in the middle school was that it takes a long time to get anything done. We do a lot of planning and we have a lot of steps to each lesson. And I'm quickly realizing that it's going to be a miracle to try and hit every single one of those steps in every single lesson. That we might have to start trying different variations to see what works the best. There were a few ways in which the students demonstrated their learning when I was in this classroom. So they did do their jot notes, and they did one as a class, and then she had sample paragraphs, and they each had to pick 3, make their own jot notes, and then using only the jot notes they created, they had to write their own paragraph, and they picked their favorite 2 for her to mark. So it kind of right there, and it gave an example of how they were learning. And it's interesting because I never learned how to make jot notes. And when I think of papers I write in school, I think it would have been effective to learn how to do that at an earlier age. This makes me pretty eager for my practicum, but also a little concerned because we do stress no worksheets, no tests, all that stuff, and it seems like schools aren't all there yet. So I do feel like we are going to have to do some of the worksheets and some of the things in order to get that all done. And while we do have some freedom, we have time constraints, and I'm not sure exactly how we're going to make that work, but our mentor teacher has been clear to us that she will be very helpful to us, and we're allowed to use any of her resources that are available. One of the things I did really like that I noticed is that she does scaffold their learning, like in their social studies lessons. First, they're doing the group work where they are figuring out what is most important. They're deciding whether they're voting or whether they have a representative. And then she's bringing that in and taking it up a notch for the next class and saying, okay, now that we know this, we're going to move on to this. I do also like her editing and revising sheets because every single day they're looping back to that grammar, that concept, because it's so important and it needs to be drilled in right now so that that is not something they even have to really try to do in the future. What I learned is that the level of engagement and relationships is super important, and that classroom management is also super important. She manages to have a pretty good hold on these kids. And when the substitute teacher was there, it was a lot different. We walked around and we tried to talk to kids and get them engaged, but a lot of them just seemed to not care because she wasn't there to keep them interested. Also, we noticed the day when we came after 2.5 days of a substitute teacher that they hadn't gotten anything done. She spent the entire day catching them up on things that were supposed to be done while the substitute was there. So it became evident that it's very easy to fall off track and that we have to work really hard to make sure that that doesn't happen. I look forward to my practicum and trying to put some of these things to use, and I'm pretty sure that I will learn a lot more while I'm there. Until next time.